Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today with Harley-Davidson's 2022 Low Rider S. As you can see, this is the Milwaukee 8117, but despite having the most powerful engine in the Harley range, you are getting a 710mm seat height. And what I want to talk about is the ergonomics and rider fit of this particular machine, because obviously you're going to be concerned about how you'll find the bike to ride. It's quite an interesting machine, I would say. It has got a very sculpted seat. It's got quite wide, but also very tall bars. And then it's also got the forward controls, but perhaps not as far forward as you might see on some of the other offerings. Otherwise, 308 kilos, as I said, 710mm seat height. So it's a very, very low seat height. There's quite a bit of padding in that as well. And while I wouldn't say the bike settles an enormous amount, it's very, very easy to jump on board this particular machine. The only thing I will say are low and well balanced overall as far as the bike, as is the case with most of these cruisers. However, the tall bars do make for a heavier front end at very, very low speeds where you're actually using the bars rather than kind of just moving around on the bike and shifting the balance to turn. So you do feel that weight of the front end a little bit, which is interesting and something, like I said, you'll only really notice it at very low speeds. Apart from that, big tank, you do have the big air intake as well, which I found it didn't quite affect my shins. There was a couple of times if I shifted around kind of into the wrong position on the bike, my shin was touching against that. Normally when I was trying to push down on that brake lever, but apart from that, kind of very little to complain about in regards to having that there and the constriction as far as the space. And I have a 32-inch inseam, so as a comparison point. So jumping on board the bike, it does actually fall onto that side stand quite heavily. It's not the longest of side stands. It's not like on some of the Harley cruisers I've seen. So you do want to make sure when you're putting it down, because it slides onto the side stand, that you have got it securely on that and that it's not going to slide off. As you can see here, overall ergonomic of the bike, it's close there on the shin, but it's not quite touching. It's not really a problem in general, real riding conditions. Reach to the bars, they're, fairly tall. I mean, my arms are, straight. There's a little bit of bend in them as well. Nice and comfortable, quite a big diameter grip, a little bit more than I'm typically used to. And by the same note, those levers, which are non-adjustable, those are quite a deep lever and they're quite a hefty lever. The clutch is also, a little bit on the heavy side, but not too bad. Great mirrors, as you can see here, they give really good vision behind you, being a more kind of a longer mirror. And then you've got your dash in front of you, which is an analog tacho with a digital readout in it. And because it's nice and tall, it actually gives you really good vision of that. Apart from that, the taller front end also gives a bit of wind protection. Not crazy, but noticeable, very, very noticeable, particularly coming from something like the Sportster S. The switch blocks are very easy. Starter, kill switch, indicators on each side, traditional Harley style there. High beams, low beams, horn, that's it. It's a simple style machine, very, very much the typical Harley. So taking the bike off the side stand, as I said, well balanced, long and low, that does add to the stability. 308 kilos, however, is a heavy machine, and you will notice that weight if you're pushing the bike around. So apart from that, generally speaking, unless you're really doing some quite tight maneuvering at low speeds, which the bike is still capable of, you'll feel the weight of that front end. Apart from that, you don't generally notice it. The seat to peg ratio I find quite nice. Like I said, those controls are a little bit further back than on some of the other models like the Sportster S I just rode. So it's a little bit more compact in the seating position. But again, it's an engaging seating position, so it does work. The fact that that seat is quite deep and scalloped is really good, because if you give it a bit of throttle, it will push you back because there's heaps and heaps of torque there. By the same note, I did find myself on the freeway getting a bit of a grip on those bars, simply because obviously with a little bit of wind protection, but not a lot of wind protection, the pressure does build up on your chest, particularly at speed. But that's the style of bike it is really, and you would need to put a screen on to reduce that effect. At the same time, I didn't feel like there was too much of an issue, too much air drag on my legs with them in this particular position. And again, that's because those controls are a little bit further back, no doubt simply because of the air intake. It does have a big wide tank here, which holds 19 litres of fuel, so a generous fuel capacity. And while certainly I wasn't really like grasping onto the tank, it's a very natural sitting position for me with that 32-inch inseam between the seat, the pegs, and just kind of having my legs alongside the tank there. Apart from that, as you'll see, there's no standard seat on the back, but that big guard is very much appreciated because it keeps the water off you. Rubber on those pegs. There are some vibrations through the bars if you really give it some, but you know, it's a big V twin, so that's kind of expected. Non-adjustable forks, and it is kind of an all-round system, which I thought worked really, really well. Nice comfort side of things, particularly on the rear with that seat. The level of comfort from the bike there was good. And overall, I gotta say, I think it's a commanding riding position, quite natural for me. I'm, you know, that perfect, like relaxed, slightly slumped seating position, comfortable seat, more comfortable than the Sportster S, I will note. The foot controls, they work good. It's easy to get leverage through, easy to change gears as well. And overall, just a very easy bike to jump onto despite being such a heavy machine at the end of the day. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Low Rider S from Harley-Davidson for 2022. As I said, Milwaukee 8117 engine. This is the big bike. This is the big bore, the big performance Harley this year. A number of bikes do have the 117 in 2022, but if you're considering this particular machine, that hopefully will give you a bit of an idea. In comparison, at least to me, I'm 180 centimeters, 32-inch inseam, about 75 kilos. And yeah, hopefully that'll help you out. Anyway, if you've got any questions, ask below in the comments and I'll be back soon.